All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And as of the time of this recording, even though it hasn't been too long since Splitgate 1 servers have been taken offline, well, the spirit of Splitgate 1 lives on in Splitgate 2 in the form of a playlist, which is the OG Splitgate playlist, which I had my most recent stream on, and it was quite exciting. And what was also exciting was that the official Splitgate YouTube channel invaded my stream, so to speak. And even though they didn't give any specific details, they also said that there would be a new playlist on Tuesday, so you guys can keep a lookout for that. They didn't say anything, they didn't reveal anything. However, it was, again, for the second night in a row, it was really nice having the official Splitgate YouTube in chat. It's a very humbling experience, and that just goes to show you that, you know, they really do care about the community, no matter who it is, because I'm a small guy on here, and on top of that, I am brand new to the Splitgate community. However, I did play Splitgate 1 for about, I would probably say, give or take, about maybe 75 hours total, which isn't very much, especially compared to Splitgate 2, which I'm getting close to knocking on the door of 400 hours already, and the game's only been out for a few months. But with that being said, when I played this OG playlist that you're seeing here in the gameplay, I have to admit, there was some adjusting within the first few games, of course, because the pacing is different, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Not at all, actually. As a matter of fact, there's quite a lot of variety, despite the fact that you're kind of going OG style with, you know, even loadouts or whatnot, and you can still have a lot of action, right? It's just in a different way from Splitgate 2. I would say that it's 90% Splitgate 1 feeling and 10% Splitgate 2, because Splitgate 2 is a whole other game that's been built from the ground up, so it's going to feel a little bit different than Splitgate 1. And on top of that, you got the slide and all that kind of stuff. So I'd say in this particular playlist, if you play on this particular playlist, it's going to feel 90% like Splitgate 1 and 10% of Splitgate 2. Now, some people would consider that the perfect ratio, right? Now, I also have this opinion to where I think if the devs manage to keep the OG Splitgate 1 feeling in the game while simultaneously present us with the Splitgate 2 feeling, because both games feel good and they have their own pace, their own tone, the maps are made a certain way. If they manage to get a good ratio of both, then I think we're in a truly unique experience here, because when you're looking at the OG Splitgate 1 maps, they're very enjoyable because, you know, on one hand, you've got your precision weapon as your starting weapon, and then of course you got your assault rifle as your backup. So they're both basically primary weapons, right? This actually makes picking up power weapons around the map much more viable. And also when you shut down portals, because of where the portals are placed for the most part, and because of how the tone works with these particular maps, it's even more important not only when you use portals, but at the same time when you shut them down. But there is a balance, though, because it's not, for the most part, it's not as crazy or chaotic as Splitgate 2 in terms of, you know, portaling everywhere and anywhere and stuff like that. There's kind of a limit to it, but at the same time, if you are creative enough, you can definitely make things happen. But there's more wiggle room. There's more of a balance in that aspect, especially when you look at, you know, some of the OG maps over here. So now the maps themselves, obviously the playlist itself includes no equipment, no abilities. And of course you've got Stadium, Carmen Station, Atlantis, Club Silo, Genetics, also known as Helix. So those are basically the maps, and Stadium is basically the same stadium we have in the regular Splitgate 2 playlist. So it's not like they brought back the old one, although I don't remember them. Oh, actually, there is a little bit of a difference between the OG Stadium and the new one. But with that being said, all the maps, after adjusting a little bit, obviously people that played Splitgate 1 are going to be right at home. But after adjusting a little bit, I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised of the different kinds of engagements you can have, as well as the pacing and the way the sound and the audio design works, of how you can pick things up really quick in terms of where people are at. So that way you can think about which approach you want to take, as well as obviously with the portals and everything else. It fits in very, very well. And I think for a lot of people that are the Splitgate OGs, like the original Splitgate OGs, I think you guys are going to have a ton of fun while this playlist is up. And I think it's also going to be pretty much a really, really big message to the devs of just how important those maps are, as well as the even loadout starts and stuff like that. However, I think I mean, I remember in stream, there were a few people on stream that actually mentioned to me that, hey, they still don't mind loadouts. Like, they understand the starts. It's not like a game breaker, but they don't mind loadouts. And I'm sure some people don't even mind the factions, because in this OG playlist, you don't have any faction abilities. They're just skins at this point. So I think we could go either way, but I also think that, at least as far as pubs are concerned, I personally don't have a problem with the loadouts or the attachments for weapons and stuff like that. Or even if you have the ability to go further than that and basically choose which assault rifle and which precision weapon you want, I think that would add a really interesting part of variety into the game, so to speak. But obviously, there are people that just play pubs and they prefer to have a more balanced experience with pubs and similar to ranked, but just not as tight as far as the matchmaking is concerned. And then, of course, there are the other people that literally wouldn't mind all the bells and whistles that Splitgate 2 has, but with that OG Splitgate feel, you know what I mean? So, because there are people that will prefer one type of weapon over another, which is, let's face it, it's a big deal to a lot of people, right? If people prefer a certain weapon. But with that being said, when you're talking about things like the power weapons, they're that much more viable because of how the maps work and how the even starts work. But yeah, I mean, this game could go either way, but that's going to be the big mystery going forward. I think the devs trying to figure out how they can like not take away the uniqueness of the new game while simultaneously keeping and retaining the uniqueness of the first game and blending those two formulas together in a really good combination. That's going to be the trick now. That's going to be the trick, because I think a lot of people are going to take to this very well. I did, and I wasn't even expecting to take it as well as I did. But, especially after adjusting and just kind of getting a feel for everything and just telling myself consciously that, hey, Jack, these are not the same kind of maps. You can't play it the same way, at least not completely. So once I did that, and once I understood that, things worked out a lot better for me. Obviously, when you have your precision weapon, it's there for a reason, because of the way these maps are designed, as well as the verticality and the long distance engagements that you're going to have, the way the portals work in these maps compared to the ones that we have in Splitgate 2. So as far as, I'm sorry, in the regular Splitgate 2 maps. So there is a difference, and it's definitely going to be noticeable. It's going to be slower, but not slow. And what I mean by that is, it's still going to be fast paced, but it's going to be something to where it's more methodical, and it's going to be more like a grappling match as opposed to, a boxing match, if that makes sense, so to speak, or not a boxing match, but let's just say a brawl, right? It's going to be like a grappling match versus a brawl. That's basically the best analogy I can give at this point. So, but yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys check it out. And as always, let the devs know in the comment section in terms of what you guys think of this playlist. Do you think they should mix and match? Do you want loadouts and factions to be a part of this as well? Do you want to be able to choose your assault rifle and your and your precision weapon, and no matter which one they are, whether it's a burst or a carbine, whatever, or a semi or whatever, or would you just rather have it to where you can pick any two weapons as usual, right? And just kind of go from there. The interesting part about that is that secondaries kind of become obsolete, but at the same time, it's not really that hard to make secondaries even more powerful to where they can actually feel like primaries. The Sabraz, certain weapons for the Sabraz have been nerfed, and other one like the burst pistol for the I think the Meridian, that thing is basically like a primary if you think about it, but obviously it doesn't have a large magazine, so that's how they balance that out. So, but again, there's just so many different ways that you can go with this game, which is one of the things that makes it unique. But at the same time, if you're a developer, it could also make it very, very complicating and confusing, because you're going to have people that think this, and at the same time, you've got the game that does all these different things. So you're like, okay, how do I combine this to be as perfect as possible, and to please the most amount of people, So it's definitely a challenge and a puzzle to figure out for the devs as well. But at the same time, it's actually exciting because, again, a game could go in many different directions, and if you actually get the right combination, it could be really good. And at the same time, you know, you can always, it's very interesting if you can mix and match when bringing in new game modes in terms of the rules and how those change and the feedback that you get from the community. And whichever has the most positive feedback, I think should be something that is there on a more permanent basis, but only time will tell. But I myself find myself being very, I'm enjoying this playlist quite a bit. I played it for 3 hours and I don't regret any of it for sure. And I really like the design of some of these maps, even though not all of them are finished. And the way they look. And so far they also play very well. So yeah, I find myself enjoying them quite a bit, a lot more than I thought I would. Because at first it took me a little bit of adjusting for the pace, you know, because the pace is slower. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But then once I adjusted and once I told myself consciously that, hey, you can't play these maps the exact same way you play, you know, except for Stadium, you know, because remember, these are like new maps, you know, even though you've played on them before a long time ago, you got to treat them not like new maps. And then once I did, and once I adjusted, it was fine and it was quite enjoyable and I enjoyed the variety. So with that being said, again, let everything be known in the comment section down below in terms of what you think of the OG playlist. Did they get it right? What could they do to make it better? Should they add or take anything away? Any feedback for the devs would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. And Splitgate 2, thank you very much for invading my stream yet again. It's always a pleasure having you guys on. And as always, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.